right, welcome back. And in case you're just joining us, you are just in time for the conversation we want to have this morning as we dissect the speech by the head of state yesterday, the State of the Nation address that he was doing, all courtesy of a constitutional mandate that he is obligated to fulfill, just addressing members of parliament and senators and the country at large on what his government has been able to do. He talked about the difficult decisions that he has had to make, that he says were set to put the country on the right path, and also the progress in implementing his bottom-up economic agenda. We will be talking about the nitty-gritties of, this with my panel this particular morning. Allow me to introduce you once again. Sitting just right next to me on my right is Philip Pande. Philip is a youth inclusion advisor. Thank you, Philip, for creating time. We also have Muthoni Mburu, a lawyer, with us this morning. Asante for coming. And we have Arnold Maliba, public policy analyst. Karibu sana, Arnold. And Bina Maseno, a governance and inclusion advocate. We appreciate your time also. All right, so it would be nice to start by giving you all an opportunity as part of your opening remarks to generally just highlight, the speech by the head of state yesterday. It is what's supposed to be like sort of paint a picture of this exact state of the nation and how it's looking like. The good, I assume, the bad, I also assume, and the ugly. I want us to just get from the four of you whether you got that impression from the over 1 hour speech that the head of state laid bare in Parliament yesterday. Did you actually see Kenya in his words?
Very well, Safin. Good morning to all our viewers. It's good to be back once again here. Yes, we had a sense of what the president has done over the past 1 year or so. But I believe that there is so much to be done. There is a lot to be done within the country, and we all accept that fact. And one thing that I would always say is that in the wise words reiterated by PLO, Professor PLO Lumumba, is that when you talk to the people, tell them the truth, not to inflame their emotions, but do it with the firmness that opens their eyes. And one particular thing that I would say, that where we sit today, it's prudent that the advisors of the president, the advisors of the country, looking at the economy, would want to focus more in telling the president the truth and reflecting his manifesto before the campaigns and what we're actually implementing today. Because you see a dichotomy between what the president presented yesterday and the promise. We talk about youth inclusion, we talk about youth employment, we talk about facilitation of the youth ecosystem to be at par with the rest of us in the country, and that is not really forthcoming. And so what I expected as a citizen, as a liberal citizen, looking at his manifesto, we want to hold him more accountable to what he said before the campaigns and to what he's implementing now. And so with that parity not achieved, we at a point when we're asking, do we really need to give the president the benefit of doubt? Yes, leaders deserve the benefit of doubt, but then what matters most is what they do with the time and what they do with the excess and additional promise, additional confidence that the country might want to invest in them. All right. And they making use and making sense of that time.
All right. Talk about whether we should give him the benefit of doubt. But then from your perspective, Muthoni, did it quite meet your expectation?
Asante sana. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here today. And first of all, I'd like to say, indeed, you've rightfully put it, that it is the constitutional mandate of the president once every year under Article 132 for them to visit us, the people of Kenya who have rightfully put him there, to tell us or give us a report or an update of what have they been doing, what his regime and his government has been doing with the time allocated to him and assigned to him by the people of Kenya. And indeed, when I was really looking and reflecting into what was talked about yesterday, accountability is what the president or any other government owes us out of what we've given them. So by him doing his constitutional mandate, he's not doing us a favor. He's not, it's not out of, but it is actually his obligation for him to come and give us an update on what they have been doing with that responsibility that the Kenyans have bestowed upon him. And maybe just to, because we cannot only be critics, it's important and worth noting that yesterday he was really in good and quite positive spirits. He was very well relaxed when in articulating issues. It is also, we also got to see the likes of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, senior counsel, and we got to witness a mastery that I must quite commend him. It's quite commendable of the president, knowing so many citizens by name, mentioning Kamau from Lamu and the likes from and Mohammed from
and the mobile numbers that he's going to share.
And the mobile numbers that is those made the highlights. But really, indeed, the questions that most of the citizens were asking: do we really need HE to know us? Because for me, I know for sure. Actually, I met him a while back, and I'm sure he would be able to say, this is Modoni, because he has a mastery of mastering names. That's quite unique. However, we had those misses that we felt as Kenyan citizens. There were those things that we really, really were looking forward to. The issue of youth, which we will come and dissect here, being a very huge voting bloc that indeed voted for this regime, there were some certain things that we felt that were amiss. And with the current ongoing reigns in the country, we really wanted to see what is the roadmap. So obviously, we did not expect him to come and say nothing. He indeed has an art of speaking. That is one of his greatest suits. And but still, there are those things that we are going to talk about we really felt were really not addressed, and they are really key for Kenyans at the moment. Thank you.
All right, all right. Let's get to you, Arnold. She has also talked about something that also stood out. I think this State of the Nation address is quite different compared to the one that he had recently. There was a bit of calm. You saw the likes of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka seated there. The last time this was happening, we saw the drama that was there. There was a bit of an uncomfortable environment between the leaders from the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio. Yesterday, the tone was a bit different. I don't know whether that stood out for you. And also talk to me about, listening to the head of state yesterday. Do you think he captured, what the nation wanted to hear from him with that opportunity?
Well, under Article 132, specifically the address we're talking now, initially when he spoke to Parliament, he was doing so under Article 132, 1A. Addressing a newly elected parliament. And so we are now talking about 132, 1B. Specifically, he has got three things that he's supposed to address. Number one, in the 132, 1B State of Nation address, he's supposed to talk about the realization of the national values. That is in Article 10 as number one. And number two, he's supposed to address how he has actually worked out the fulfillment of the international obligations of the Republic, and number three, the state of national security. So ordinarily, that is what the address yesterday was supposed to cover. And I would say that it covered all that. The only difference is that it was a much shorter speech, as we've been, we've come to be accustomed to over the years, is that they've been much longer. And of course, the reports will be tabled. Yesterday, the reports weren't tabled. They'll be tabled, I think, on Tuesday in Parliament, so that then Parliament can go over that and give the nation feedback. So it's a process that's not just about talking. So for me, as an individual, of course, the statement by the address yesterday was a sobering one. No hiding back. We're used to being hyped up and being told where we are going. The president spoke to us the truth. And all of us want the truth, but we hate the truth. There's the wanting, Everybody looking for the truth wherever they want it. But once it dawns on you, you don't like it. So this was a sobering address to tell us exactly where we are. How we got here, but how we are going to get out of it. So when the president was running for office, of course, he had some 5 main pillars that he was actually running on, but the summary of it ended up being 3 things. That he promised the country that he would bring us, he wanted us to go towards a constitutional democracy, number 2, a place of institutionalized politics, and number 3, a country of opportunities. He's told us exactly, and there is no better headline that captures the president's speech than the Standard. Mm-hmm. If you look at the Standard today, the headline, clearly that captures for me what the president said and the state of the nation. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the sentiments we get elsewhere, of course, are the expectations, the way we've actually, you know, for example, allow me to just go on the sides a little bit. Every time there's been a problem, we've been used to that serikali saidia call. So when things go as hard as they are, and no one has actually told us that it's easy. But when William Ruto was actually running, he promised us so many things, but he never told us it was going to be easy. And that's exactly what he actually says on the Standard, that these are the tough choices of where we are. Number 1, we ran rough with our credit card as a country. We no longer can actually go out there freely. There is the elephant in the room that has been around here. It's affected the currency, the exchange rates. It's affected even the bourse. Look at the stock exchange, the flight. The economy has been in the market's actually shaken, specifically because of one question. Because if you go back 4 or 5 years ago, there was the prophecy, let me call it the prophecy, but the projections were there. The only thing sometimes when I sit on such like platforms that make me surprised is that people are surprised that we are here when we were told that we'll be getting here. 4 or 5 years ago, economists, people who look into, you look at them and you think they were prophets of genius. They spoke up about us a moment as this, that the way we were running the country was not. So the things we clapped for people when they actually said they had brought this, now they've fallen due. We've got the Eurobond, for example, and that has been a big problem. There's been word and rumor in financial corridors about Kenya being in dire straits and that we will be defaulting. Mm-hmm. So he addressed that. And he's just told us exactly how we've gotten there. So I think from where I sit, the president came to us and told us the truth. I know people wanted to be told, okay, we will do this and we will go that, we'll go this way. When he promised a bottom-up economic model, he was actually restructuring the economy because we are like a train that had derailed. And to bring us back, it's not going to be an easy process. So, of course, that is what we expect, and that is fair. All of us have got expectations. But then there is the reality of where we are.
All right.
Just before Bina comes in, I just needed to say this. When you look at this particular statement, let us remember that this is a political process. All politicians love to be loved. So there is no politician who comes to office and then, of course, decides to punish the people. William Ruto wants a second term. He wants to actually leave a legacy. He wants to actually do proper work so that then his watch on duty counts. So by the time a politician as seasoned as William Ruto makes such tough choices, it means that we are doing badly. Probably we should be asking, if we had not taken these hard choices, where would we be?
All right, that's a good question to ponder over. But Bina, what do you think, though? Because these tough decisions are actually really tough, if you may ask me. There are people who are still concerned about why there was no mention of the really skyrocketing cost of fuel, why there was no mention of tax, and Kenyans are lamenting that we are taxing everything these days. These are the things they expected to hear the head of state talk about and even attempt to justify or explain where this is coming from. And no mention of these critical issues. How do you take that?
I think, as my colleagues have said, first of all, it's his constitutional mandate. Mm-hmm. And I think as someone who's a community mobilizer, organizer, who works in the community, I expected that yesterday's speech would especially reflect the aspirations of a majority of the citizens in this country who live under $1 a day. That was my expectation. And that he would address issues critical to raising the quality of living for every other citizen who's not even sure about tomorrow. You know, like people are on survival mode. And when people are on survival mode, how then do you build the economy when for you it's just about the food you put on the table? You know, how do you even invest back in the economy by even just, you know, because when you're making it, you're able to purchase something, you're able to go out, even have a meal with your children, then you're contributing to building the economy. But if you're not even able to put a meal on the table, if you're, you know, if we're living, you know, in an era and, you know, at a time where you're deciding which meal to take, you know, whether you're going to have dinner, which meal to sacrifice, which meal are you sacrificing, which one are you going to take later? And I think even this year, Siasa Police has been having this, you know, scorecard and rating what citizens, especially at the community, feel and think and aspire to. And I remember reading that I think 33%, you know, rate the government in terms of their service delivery, you know, like poor service delivery, 33%, right? And 38% are not even confident when it comes to access to quality healthcare. So when you look at some of these things, that's like the basic, you know, like the basic. When you talk about food, healthcare, shelter, education, like that's the most basic, you know, because every parent worries whether they're going to be able to educate their child. Every parent worries whether they're going to be able to have food on the table for their, you know, for their family. Same as even the young people who are in the, you know, in the learning institutions, you know, you worry whether it's even worth it for you to finish education because there'll be opportunities, you know, because and even if you want to be an entrepreneur, you worry whether there'll be an enabling environment for that. You know, we're talking about brain drain. You know, we see talent leaving this country every other day, you know, and leaving this country sometimes to not even secure places or secure countries, but they're just leaving the country because they just want to have something, you know, they want to make something out of their lives, you know. We see so many dropouts, you know, sometimes when you work in the community, it's so sad when you see so many people drop out because, you know, they want to get into the matatu sector. You know, people are selling their small portion of land to actually buy a boda, you know, because they just want to, you know, get by. You see, and that's going to have implications, you know, in the future because we're not looking at that now. You know, my colleague spoke about the Eurobond. I think even when we're talking about that economists told us where we're going to be like 5 years ago, you know, I would beg to understand then what steps did we put in place? Because some of the, you know, where we find ourselves nowadays, I mean, currently, it's also because of the decisions that were made by some of our leaders, you know. When you talk about Eurobond, you know, look, I think in 2016 I was reading an audit that 215 billion could not be accounted for in terms of that money went into the government ministry, you see. So now we find ourselves where you are paying debt sometimes for, you know, for proceeds that were looted, for resources that were looted, and no prosecutions, you know, no prosecutions. We're always just investigating, no prosecutions, you know. And then at the rate at which we are increasing taxes, we just came out of an election just a year ago, you know, and even if you want to increase taxes, you stagger it to allow people, first of all, to recover, because we know what happens during election year. You know, the economy dips because people are not certain about, you know, the election period and the situation enough to want to invest in the economy. So everyone is always on a pause mode to see what's going to happen, you know. And after that period, first of all, you even stagger, you know, taxes, you know, they're going to enforce these taxes, yes, but then you stagger it to allow the people to, first of all, recover, to allow the businesses to resurrect, you know, and then now you start imposing this. You know, you don't want to really lead in a way where people feel like, what can I do to evade the taxes? You want to inspire hope, you know, and you inspire hope by speaking about reality, facts, and then providing the vision forward. When you come to address the nation and the citizens, people expect you to tell them, this is the reality, you see, and not to perhaps have all this PR about what's working and not to, you know, you know, this and this is working. And even when we praise, you know, services like Hustler Fund, I don't think you can actually look at the success of a nation by how many guys are borrowing. You see, so if you're actually having more young people borrowing, or even just the general citizens borrowing, that should tell you what's happening in the country. Yeah, something is off.
All right. Yeah. We will come back from this break just to dissect some of those issues that the head of state mentioned and said there was progress, Hustler Fund being one of them. We heard about this fertilizer subsidy program in the health sector, the UHC journey. On matters education, he hailed what the Presidential Working Party has been able to do, and even their proposals on the higher education funding model. We'll dissect all that and look at whether that actually addressed some of the issues that will be deviling the country when we come back from this particular break. Continue sharing with us your thoughts on social media at Citizen TV Kenya, at Safina_Ching. The hashtag is Daybreak.